Welcome to Compassion in Cannabis. I'm your host, Tara Purcell, and today we have a special guest joining us, Jacob Wiggins. Living in Texas, Jacob has faced numerous challenges in accessing the cannabis medicine he needs to help himself. Despite dealing with limited strains and navigating the healthcare system for uncontrolled epilepsy, Jacob has found that cannabis has been the powerful tool in managing his seizures. Today, we delve into his journey of advocacy efforts and the transformative power of cannabis in the face of adversity. Welcome, Jacob, to Compassion in Cannabis. We're honored to have you here, and we can't wait to hear more about your experiences and the positive impacts cannabis has had on your life. So join us as we embark now on this insightful conversation about resilience, advocacy, and the healing potential of cannabis. Welcome to our video podcast where we bring you stories that warm the soul. And again, I'm your host, Tara Purcell, and I'm thrilled to embark with you on this journey. Welcome, Jacob. How are you?
Oh, it's great to be here. I'm doing pretty well today. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. Thank you. And it's an honor to have you here and sharing your remarkable journey. And just to kind of jump into things, can you take us back to the pivotal moment when you first discovered the potential of cannabis and managing your seizures, and what led you to explore this alternative path and what were your initial thoughts and emotions on this?
Well, I my seizures, started, out pretty strong, and I got, thrown on a lot of pills at first, and I knew at that time, the CBD and Charlotte's Web uh, excitement, was going on, and all the doctors at that time were actually, tired of hearing about it, and it seemed like I really got very anything from the doctors when I brought it up, and because my seizures were very intense, and I was going to the hospital every time, and finally. I got the courage to try cannabis, and when I felt what they call the aura before the seizure, um, it's like I have like a second to maybe 5 seconds until I actually like go into convulsions, and I got the courage, after maybe 6 months into my seizures, of you know inhaling cannabis before the actual convulsions. I actually got, I was close by cannabis, and luckily, you know, available for me to use in a safe place. And at that moment when I tried it, I became completely out of that seizure zone, and it seemed like, almost like a very awakening moment for me when I found that kind of power, or just shift in how the seizure feelings weren't there, and how they just kind of like passed, or how the cannabis really eased my nerves, or eased everything in my brain and my body. So that's really the first time I really knew that cannabis worked, at least for me. And I knew, at that point, it really wasn't, just the CBD, what they were, first saying on the news, and um, because it seemed like more of the whole plant, or actually, I guess what THC. I guess that I think it really does help me bring me out of that seizure moment. It's a very powerful feeling, and it's actually, I think, helped me uh, not have to use cannabis in that seizure moment, because I've strengthened myself and my brain and my body to, sometimes have that power to, or that kind of learned power to bring myself out of that zone. And I really think cannabis has really helped teach me to get out of that zone. But it definitely it helps me during during like before the seizures. And I am on the Texas compassionate use program, which I have been on since the beginning. And I have tried different ratios of their oil. And it's right now it seems like I'm just using it for like a rescue, like almost like the when I have the aura or like during a seizure. I usually have a preloaded syringe, and I put it under my tongue, or my wife puts it under my tongue during the seizure. And so sometimes it does, stop the seizures, but sometimes it doesn't. But I really think sometimes that's the ratio with the oil, and again, like getting what works for me, because I think really cannabis is a somewhat it's like individual for each person almost, but yet it's somewhat the same in a way, but it can get, I think, very individualized in the way it helps, I think, or in the way we use it and how it can help. But it's definitely been a long journey. I mean, I started having seizures at 19, and I have gone through many doctors. And I do live in Houston, and one of the biggest medical places, I think, in the United States, with a lot of you know good doctors. Though with uh, my experience with most of my doctors, have been it's been difficult, I guess. I've been on over 20 different epilepsy drugs, and it seems like the doctors in the past, um, I would say at least 15 years of the beginning of my epilepsy, totally ignored cannabis medicine. And um, I think they put me back in the way I treat myself using cannabis medicine, because I think they put a lot of negativity, and it gave me a lot of difficulties with, I guess, accessing that power to cannabis. But
Can you so for people tuning in, we hear a lot about epilepsy. There's a lot of epilepsy awareness going on, but how much do people actually know? So it's interesting because we'd almost sometimes have the preconceived notion that people are born with this. But as you mentioned, it came on at 19. And there's a lot of different kinds of seizures that one has. Could you maybe go into more specifically about what kind of seizures that you do have, and kind of give us like some information a little bit about that, and how we can maybe even be aware when we are around someone, and how we can help process that and be of assistance if we are around someone who is having any seizures too.
right. Um, well, I mean, it's like sometimes I get the aura, of the seizures coming on, and sometimes it just happens like that. Uh, but my seizures have changed over the years, and I think that is a lot because of the drugs that I've been on. And I do think a lot of I'm on 4 different pharmaceutical medications, and I do think some of those do bring on a lot of the partial seizures, um, which are kind of just the almost the feeling before the grand mal. And I have to either get my mind in line, or uh, just get out of that zone, or like use a safety medicine like the cannabis oil, which brings me out of that zone almost immediately. um, Sometimes I do have to take a dissolvable clozapam but that's, if the oil, I don't have some, or um, it, a lot of aspects. It's very, scary when the seizures come on, and
How is it like living in Texas where access to cannabis medicine can be challenging? What like specific obstacles have you encountered on your journey in navigating the healthcare system and like your rights to access like safe like relief that you need?
well, it's been a journey because it wasn't available, when my epilepsy first began, and I knew cannabis had, some power, some kind of power in me, because I had used it before epilepsy, uh, with dealing with social anxiety. And sometimes I had those moments and I used it, and it really helped me, focus more, and helps me, learn kind of, like, why are you having social anxiety, or like,
Mhm.
I don't have to have anxiety when I'm in social moments.
Right.
Uh, in Texas, again, I you know, maybe a year, maybe less than that, when my seizures began, I started very advocating for cannabis for patients, especially dealing with epilepsy, but not just epilepsy, because I knew it had potential. And I began calling my representatives, my senators, my governor, and that's kind of the beginning I took. And I also wrote, a few letters, some good letters. Um, and I want to say that definitely helped, start at least the Texas Compassionate Use Program. I mean, I'm sure it helped a little bit, but we have a lot of people, behind us, pushing for that program and trying to help as much people as possible. And unfortunately, though, this last session, we were had a bill that was on the House, that passed the House overwhelmingly. It was like 127 to 19, I believe,
Wow.
for the bill. And our lieutenant governor, one person decided not to bring it to the floor for a vote. I mean, I think that's, and
Wow.
this bill added pain to the program, and it's it increased the THC amounts to, I believe, only 10%, which is not that high. Um, and I think, if legislators are still thinking like this program, people are going to get on this program and get high, that I don't, even when it's 10%, they might feel some relief, but you're not going to have, the the stereotype, stoners, or coming to get on the pot, to get on the program to get high, uh, which I'm not saying getting high off of cannabis is a bad thing. I just think, maybe high is a bad terminology for it. But
Absolutely. I think those are really pinpointed things to point out, and that's even what changed, like, impacted my life, is when I started meeting patients. When I started realizing that there are patients whose lives, like, depend on this, and that stigma of, like, the stupid stoner or the getting high, those are there is that difference of what recreational is versus medical, even though all use is medical use because we have an endocannabinoid system. But there's that difference, that process, like you're explaining, ingesting your medicine differently. You're using drops and sublinguals, and your life really is better with it and could really go in a south direction if without it as well.
for sure, I mean, if I didn't have this, I think I would definitely be having more seizures, and I would be on more higher doses of pharmaceutical drugs. And the side effects from the pharmaceutical drugs are just, crazy. I don't know how I make it really if I didn't have cannabis.
Right. How do you have like a particular regimen or anything that you do on implementing your
Well, I
oil?
um, my morning times when I'm sleeping, like when I'm about to wake up, is when I have a lot of my partial seizures. And so sometimes I have to, when I'm in bed, I have to roll over and either, take a syringe. But sometimes, the again, the oil um, is not, as I guess you could say, like as strong enough for me because
Yeah.
I have, the high amount, the right amount of cannabinoids, not just THC, but other ones.
Mhm.
Uh, I those times I catch myself and I have a chance to roll over while I'm sleeping and either take the syringe or sometimes inhale cannabis. Um, I mean, I don't know why I shouldn't have that access if it's gonna help me not have a seizure and not have me go to the hospital and all this other stuff that comes with that.
Yeah, and you bring up a really important point. I mean, tax and regulation is what we're asking for when we're asking to legalize this plant that's a medicine for others. So when we do that, we limit, like you're saying, the percentage of the cannabinoids that we're actually allowing patients to ingest. So there's a big difference in understanding what a patient's needing versus what you're getting in the stores. Like you can't go in and actually get the cannabinoids and the amount of it. I mean, you might need 2 grams, even a patient might need 3 grams, depending on their body, who they are, and what they're fighting. I mean, there's a lot of elements, and there's multiple uses of ways to do this for those that don't want to get high with the psychoactive. I mean, you can do topicals, you can put it into your belly button, the bottoms of your feet. It's more important to also recognize all those other cannabinoids that we do have. People underestimate CBD. They underestimate the CBG, CBN, or the delta 9 that's sitting in the shelves, those and delta 8s, like those are very valuable cannabinoids that come from our plant that have a specific benefit within our endocannabinoid system. And that's where, like you mentioned, like the care we get matters individually. Like it's important that we are understanding our dosage and what cannabinoids we need, whether it's a CBGN and a CBN together in a sublingual mix, whether it's a full extract cannabis oil, or maybe you just need to ingest a gummy. There's a lot of different approaches into how we can get this medicine. And it's so important because no matter what state you're in, no matter what border you go, if you have seizures, your seizures are there with you. If you have cancer, that cancer is there with you. And that's why it's so important that we're sharing these stories and we acknowledge that there's patients and teach the difference in like recreational versus medical. And that's where it's important to be involved with the policy and your legislation, your senators, like get involved because they're writing that policy. And so you have a chance to be involved before they take the care of patients out. Can you tell us more about the Texas Compassionate Program that you're part of?
Yeah, I have been a part of this program again. I think 6 months after it began, and I've been. I think it was 2016, I believe it began. I could be wrong on that date, but I have used. I was on their 20-to-1 ratio, and I was using that every day, but I was also, switching different medications because I was, listening to my doctor, you know, very carefully and, obeying everything they said. Um, but we were also changing medications and all this time during when I was trying the cannabis oil. So it was very hard to tell if it was working or if the other seizure medications were causing conflicts in the situation. But I have been very connected with this Texas program and all of the people um, actually, making the medicine. And uh, I think the Texas Original, who is the people who make it right now in Texas. They're called Texas Original, and I think they've actually grown a lot in ways, and I think they've really have helped keep patients on that program and have like kept it going because they have extended some of their products as much as they can. They recently added what they call a sleep gummy, which added CBN and
Wonderful.
and uh, when that I think that came out maybe less than a year ago or maybe a little bit more. When that first came out, I definitely got it because I knew I've researched things on CBN and seizures, and I definitely needed help with sleep, and that definitely helps me. And I do use that sometimes as a rescue um, when I have seizure feelings coming on. But sometimes the gummy, I do get nervous because I'm having a seizure. I don't want to choke on that
Right.
because so I wish I did have a tincture, which they I and I do um, to me a lot. Uh, but I think they listen to all their patients a lot for sure, uh, because I think they want to help. Um, this these people in this company at least want to help the patients as much as they can with cannabis as much as they can. If they can bring in another cannabinoid like CBN that's like known to help with seizures or many other things. I think that's a big step for them to bring it in and to help broaden what the potentials of cannabis more. So I've really been active in trying to keep them strong. Trying to say this does help me, and y'all are helping a lot of people. But y'all just stay with it. Don't let the politics or hates get to y'all. Y'all are doing the right thing. And just stay on the track. Don't let the try not let the big money or anything corrupt the process y'all are doing, because y'all are doing it as great as possible. Texas at least. um,
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Um, so, there's a lot of stigma upon like cannabis and seizures, and like how throughout your journey how have you found the support and community within the cannabis community and among individuals facing similar challenges to have these connections and shared experience play a role in your resilience and determination?
well, at first when I brought up cannabis, I was going to some support groups, some epilepsy support groups.
Good idea.
And at first, people were very silent, and um, it was just me talking, about it. And but I didn't really, talk in depth too much at first. But once I kind of felt, the the vibration of the people there and what they were open to, or just how to say it. I definitely went more in depth with how it helps me, and how these all these stories that were going on when I was you know in those support groups at first, when the CBD was all over the TV, and everyone was talking about it when if you brought up seizures. And so I think more people started to listen, but it was still very hard to get people to really comprehend. Uh, it's not just CBD that works. For me, because I really think THC has worked more for dealing with my seizures. But again,
Yeah.
I'm limited to the access, and I'm very limited to the kinds of cannabis, or what we call the strains, and
Mhm.
I different ones that I've tried in the past. You know, unfortunately, I have to get flowers sometimes illegally in Texas. Uh, uh, some strains seem to work more, some strains seem to work less. Uh, so I wish I could have that um, um, better access to medicine, basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, I, we do have a lot of support here in Texas. It's really, I mean, it's pretty much a game everywhere, but in Texas, this is a game. I mean, again, one person, decided not to put this last bill to a vote, and this would have passed, I believe, the Senate, and
Wow.
it would have passed the Senate. It would have, I think, been very hard on Greg Abbott not to sign that. Uh, but there would also there would be that chance that he wouldn't. But I think he would have if it passed the if it would have got to the floor for votes, Senate. It would have passed, I believe, and we could have not have to wait 2 more years to have another session to get a bill passed to help people and to help people live longer. Some people don't have these 2 years. You know,
Right.
who knows? I might not have these 2 years because seizures are my seizures can be very very violent, and I look very normal right now, maybe, or whatever whatever you call it. But when you see me have a seizure, which I have, every almost every week, I have multiple, sometimes every week, grand mal seizures, and um, it's very hard to bring it up, but there are deaths and you know grand mal seizures, and the kind that I have, are very intense, and I am lucky that again that I have medicine that can bring me cannabis, and I think that and that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a really interesting fact. And the fact is that what you need is really custom. And you even mentioned strain specific. I mean, that's so real depending on what you need and what you're really attacking within your body. And it's just like really honing in, and the government can't provide everybody's individual need. And that's where strain specific is so important, even down to the terpenes, the essence of the plant, specifically can enhance and trigger other elements, and using it even topically on our lymph nodes and just in smell is amazing what it can do. So it's really important to understand the many benefits and understand and educate yourself for what you need, how your dosing should look, and how you should be ingesting it. Um, Sublingual drops are just really what we're referencing, even putting these in CBG and CBN. And when a patient is having a seizure, taking these drops and putting it in their mouth, or taking the full extract cannabis oil and then, putting it in their mouth, under their jaw, under their tongue. How long, Jacob, would you say, if you're in a seizure and you get some drops or oil, how long does it take for it to work that you might notice it?
Well, my wife, you know, puts it in, like, usually, during the grand mal, because I'm, completely out of it. But she says, as soon as she puts it in, it's like a second or two, and my body calms down.
Well,
But sometimes I go back to the seizure, and sometimes, you know, uh, the seizures could be just strong at that moment. But a lot of the times, I do think I oil could be, stronger, or again, different connections. more in the oil that could help, fully bring me out of that.
Like across the country?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think most people access for everybody who needs help, and I don't think with cannabis it shouldn't be limited to an extent. I think people need to know what they're taking and how to dose it, and uh, most of the times the doctors don't know this or are maybe afraid to talk about it, but um, I do think we need to get more uh, how to dose the medicine correctly with people, you know, um, and
Yeah.
how ways of using this medicine, how it could work, including inhaling the medicine, because I really think for me, inhaling the medicine um, helps put a big restraint on my seizures, and especially when I have the auras come on. Um, but I I do believe that this medicine will continue to grow um, with how people use it, how doctors and people see it. The stigma is gonna, I think, just move up and down kind of until we um, find, the right, we find the right terminology to stay with it. But I think we do need to stick with um, how it helps us, medically, and
Yeah.
we have to keep up with that, or I think we're gonna keep losing some, just trying to get full access to everybody, meaning recreational. Um, but it's just very hard again being on 4 medications, and I have still so many side effects with memory, depression, and just
Yeah.
some. So I the cannabis medicine really helps me with a lot of this, and so I just
Yeah.
wish to to that medicine so I could help that could help me maybe get off of some of these uh, pharmaceutical drugs that are causing a lot of these side effects, and I yet still have grand mal seizures every week and partial seizures, sometimes, every day, sometimes every other day. But it's it's very hard here in Texas for not just me, but I have a lot of friends and family who their kids and their loved ones themselves are going through a lot of pain and trauma.
Yeah.
Believe we didn't let that bill uh, pass in Texas because again we are not only hurting Texans, we are preventing them from a longer life that could help extend their life longer. I'm always going to be here for myself and patients always, and we're going to right. We just in Texas we're going to have to move slow.
Yeah.
We got to say the right things. We can't be a part of that stigma. We can't show that that stoner
Yeah.
stigma in Texas, because that completely, I think, knocks us off the table, and
Yeah.
we have to almost play the Texas stigma. It, again, I think we know in politics it's a lot of it's a game, so it's very hard, especially here in Texas, to play that game.
Absolutely. What advice, Jacob, would you give to others who are on a similar journey, seeking these alternative paths to managing their epilepsy or chronic conditions? And what words of encouragement do you have for those who may be facing obstacles and setbacks along the way?
Well, I think, with epilepsy, uh, and anyone that has it, you know, uh, it's very hard. And I say, you know, in the end, you have to keep a somewhat positive mind and, you know, stay in the moment in a way, in real life, gather the essence of real life, you know, including, you know, love, which is, you know, life, that gives us life. You know, uh,
Yeah.
we we have uh, we have a lot we can do in this world, each of us. And actually, it's not that hard. We just have to let it flow out of us. I think that that big love, each of us, can help. The world's vibration, or the world's ideology or thinking, I think can really help heal, uh, us and our earth, our world, in a lot of different ways. It's it's we have to start thinking, more in a positive way, in an uplifting way, and almost, in a enlightened way. We have to realize what life is. Life is really a gift, a blessing, and we have to, share it, help make it great for us all. And, uh, I still choose to do that, uh, throughout my life. Hopefully, I can do it long as possible, and I get, better access to medicine helps. And so hopefully we can get this world, circling more, uh, at least circling longer and brighter for us in every ways. We I, I think I do have a lot of hope for us. We 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 can do this.
Love is what makes the world go round. It's the compassion that we give when we meet somebody, how we treat somebody. It's what we put out into the universe, the speaking, the universal language of love. We all have a love language. This world is a gift. Each day is a gift. It's the one thing we should be honoring. And I love how you bring up the power of the mind, because it's our mind that heals our hearts, bodies, and souls and spirit. And all of us encompass these traumas and these struggles. Like, though our struggles are different, they're all the same in a way. We're experiencing them, and it's okay to embrace that moment, to also acknowledge that this life, each breath is a gift, and this medicine is a gift. It roots us all together. It's a one love. It's this universal connection that's so valuable and so important in the process of healing. Taking in what you take in, what you speak, what you read, what you eat. Every detail of this life matters. Everything we do is a mantra. Every step we take is a meditation. Everything we do is a meditation, from just taking a breath to taking a step to eating our food. It's an everyday gift, and acknowledging it for every moment that we have left to treasure and honor. And so this time with you, Jacob, is very valuable, and I honor your time and your story. And I can't thank you enough for sharing with us. So thank you. And thank you from my soul to yours, and sharing this time with those who are also tuning in.
Uh, I greatly appreciate your advocacy and helping many patients as much as possible. And I think you're doing a great job. And thank you, from my heart, uh, for doing this. Uh,
Thank you.
just going, and here's some love from me to you, to everyone. We can let this flow, and we just have to let it flow. And if we let it flow, it can flow all through us and around us.
Blessed be, because we are stardust, which is the most incredible fact of all of this. We are stardust. We're all connected to this universe. So as we wrap this up, I thank you again, Jacob, and to all our loyal listeners, we extend our deepest thanks to tuning in and joining us on this transformative exploration of healing and power of cannabis. Your dedication to understanding and advocating for compassionate cannabis use has truly inspired all of us. Each question you ask, every story shared, and all the feedback we've provided have shaped this program into what it is today. We embarked on this endeavor with a singular purpose: to shed light on incredible potential of cannabis as a tool for compassion, healing, and positive change. And throughout our conversations, we've witnessed how this remarkable plant has touched the lives of countless individuals, providing relief, offering solace in the face of adversity. Together, we've delved into groundbreaking research, examined the testimonies of patients and advocates, and exploring intricacies of cannabis legislation. We're going to challenge and continue to challenge the stigma, shattering stereotypes, and fostered an environment of understanding and acceptance. However, as our show comes to a close, let us remember: the spirit of compassion in cannabis lives on within each and every one of us. It is our continued dedication to education, empathy, open-mindedness that we can foster a society that embraces the healing potential of this plant. We would like to again extend our deepest gratitude to all of our guests who have joined us. And today, Jacob, thank you. You've all graced us to show us your wisdom, your expertise, your personal experiences, and contributions that have made this invaluable. And your guys' passions for the cause has left an indelible mark on our hearts and minds. So, Jacob, again, thank you so much for your guiding us through your journey. We owe you an immeasurable debt of gratitude. Your unwavering commitment to compassion in cannabis and your ability to connect with our guests and listeners alike have truly been awe-inspiring. So, as again we approach, let us carry a torch of compassion, understanding, and advocacy with us into the future. And together we can continue to push boundaries, challenge misconceptions, and create a world where the potential of cannabis is fully realized for the benefit of all. So thank you again, dear listeners, for joining us on this remarkable expedition. Your support has been driving force behind our success, and we are forever grateful for the trust you've placed in us to share your stories. And remember, the power to make a difference lies within each and every one of you. With heartfelt appreciation and boundless hope, I'm your host, Tara Purcell, today with Compassion in Cannabis with Jacob Wiggins. Be blessed.